What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at some of the early impressions of the Until Dawn movie. Now, this is something I've tried to keep my eye on from kind of afar. I go back and forth, and I don't think I'll end up seeing it in theaters. I guess I'll just be honest with myself and honest with you. Part of it, I got to be real, is also just because I'm a big baby. I'm not a big fan of like major horror. And by the way, some of the stuff we're about to talk about in this video, this movie sounds like legitimately scary, which, by the way, is a good thing. It's actually a major positive. But for somebody like me that can't really take it, I might have to just wait till this thing comes out digitally or something. But that is kind of shocking because it's like, all right, so this is like a legitimate scary horror movie. But this is something that I want to succeed to a degree. It's an odd property to do this to. You can't take away, I think, the stone cold facts, right? Which is, did you really need to do an Until Dawn movie? My answer is probably always going to be no, and it's probably always going to be no for anything. Last of Us, Halo, any of these things. You probably didn't need to do it. So when it comes to Until Dawn, did we need this movie? Probably not. At the same time, okay, well, what do you make the movie then, right? Like, what does it become when you try to differentiate it from the game? I actually really like the setup. We've talked about that in certain trailers before, like this idea of just repeating, and you can do the different deaths, you can do different enemies, and you can still play around almost with like choice-based game-like things in a movie. I actually think it's a pretty clever strategy, right, to make it somewhat similar but somewhat different. So, okay, that's the whole lead up. Now, people are actually able to see it. And I guess one final thing before we look at the quotes. The thing is, this isn't Rotten Tomatoes yet, although I don't really trust Rotten Tomatoes scores as it is. But, these are people that are given early access, and I always hold these things with way more skepticism than I do kind of with anything else, because I just feel these are always backed by, okay, these people were invited, and how much do I actually want to trust them? Generally, I don't. And I just want to kind of be honest with you guys with that. There are interesting things said here, but generally, I feel these are the least just honest takes that I think I see with movies. I really think ultimately we're going to have to make our own decision, and I'll wait kind of till the movie is out. People I trust, maybe if they go see it, then I'll care even more. But this is some interesting stuff. So I'm just going to take this from Cinema Blend, and they took some of these influencers and some of their posts, and they just kind of, posted them in very big letters, which I appreciate. So here we go. Wow, Until Dawn is my surprise horror film of the year. The director takes a video game and turns it into a gloriously bloody and gory film full of combustible scenes and funny moments. The deaths are fresh and the cast has incredible chemistry. The film is so much fun. I had a blast. It plays a little fast and loose with the lore, but so much care is paid to the scares and kills, keeping them fresh and novel. Strong cast performances, slightly nostalgic teens in trouble vibes, solid FX. The director, David Sandberg, nailed it. So Until Dawn is undeniably the most horror film of the year, chock full of creatures, beasties, creepy production design, and ensemble of game actors. The movie ingeniously capitalizes on the premise's promise, and it's a meta horror blast. You want to see it with an audience. Until Dawn is one of the most delightfully ingenious horror films of the year, doubling as a love letter to the genre. It slays all day, or rather all night long, thrills and kills galore, a crowd pleaser with well-crafted scares, sneaking in some sincerity through the back door, and then finally Diet Cabin in the Woods, which I think is a great movie, by the way. It's an interesting way of adapting a game that was essentially an interactive movie. Keep restarting the game to make sure you beat it with everyone alive. Feels like an adaptation of a Cedar Fair theme park Halloween night. It's okay. I like the idea that somebody said it's okay, and that's like the big tagline. It's okay. It's an okay movie. No, overall, I mean, look, I do like to hear some of that stuff, and I gotta be honest, even sounds like the biggest criticisms of that group. Now, granted, a very condensed group, and also, again, like how much do I actually trust them in the first place, but sounds like the biggest complaint is, it's not a one-for-one with the game, which, okay, well, that goes to the first 2 minutes of this video, right? I mean, you kind of either accept it or you don't, and I'm not saying you have to accept it. I'm just saying you either do or you do not, and then, as I said, I actually think it's somewhat clever with what they're doing. So if the twist, if the like one-to-one type thing with the game is what it's advertised, which is they restart, that's how you get the different kills. Because you think about the game, it goes through these arcs, right? Like you have like the Scream slasher type thing, you got the Wendigos, you have a little bit of a paranormal, like supernatural type thing. Like, they go through a lot of different genres. That's actually literally what the game also is. It's a love letter to different genres of horror. So does the movie do the same thing? It certainly sounds like it did. It just had to kind of take a different approach, because ultimately, if it doesn't take that approach, and I will agree with this, like the game as a movie is actually kind of impossible, right? You have to just pick a path. You have to pick a story and just say, okay, imagine if the audience picked each one of these, this is the entire game. And it's like, well, that's unrealistic to do, right? So ultimately, I think this rewind thing is the best case to get your kills, get your scares, right? And to try to liken it to the game as much as possible. And that seems like the weakest part. And then the strength seems like, you know what, this is actually a really good, just pure horror film, which is good, I think, for general audiences. And I actually think that's going to make this movie hopefully a lot of money. For me, actually, I think that scares me away, quite literally. I think it's like just like point blank, it scares me away. So kind of mixed thoughts, but I think actually good mixed thoughts, because it feels like it might be a good movie. I hope it's well received, and if it is good, by the way, like I would like to watch it. I just kind of want to watch it in the safety of my own home. So eventually I will, and eventually we'll do some sort of review on the channel. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.